We spend an enormous amount of time trying to turn the mess of our lives into a neat, readable story. We frame the perfect photos, recount our weekends with a beginning, middle, and end, and try to mold our random, messy experiences into a character arc that makes sense. In the 1930s, the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre explored this exact obsession through a character named Antoine Roquentin. Roquentin is a 30-year-old solitary historian. He pays his bills by digging through archives, trying to force the chaotic, disconnected letters of a dead French aristocrat into a tidy, chronological biography. But as Roquentin works, he hits a psychological wall. He realizes that when you are actually living through a moment, there are no plot points or dramatic arcs. You just exist. The story only appears after the fact, when you look back and artificially stitch those random moments together. Whenever we tell the story of our lives, we are actively fabricating a post hoc lie. We curate our history to hide from the terrifying, unfiltered reality of actual existence. This philosophical crisis doesn't begin with a grand tragedy. It starts on a beach, when Roquentin bends down to skip a stone. He picks up a flat, damp pebble, muddy on one side. Instead of throwing it, he freezes. The object stops being a simple noun he can categorize and use. The word pebble falls away, leaving him holding a dense, alien, undeniably physical mass of matter that overwhelms his senses. A wave of profound, sweetish sickness travels from the stone directly into his hand. Disgusted, he drops it. He calls this feeling the nausea. This sensation is the physical realization that objects do not obey or care about human meanings. The world is, and this indifferent factualness suddenly becomes unbearably tangible. To cure this mounting sickness, Roquentin desperately clings to his historical research. He hopes that by organizing the facts of the past, he can restore order to his own unraveling present. Instead, the biography falls apart. He realizes the past is a meaningless void, used by the living as a vacation from the present. He throws away years of work. He looks for an anchor elsewhere, tracking down his former lover, Annie. But Annie is caught in her own trap. She exhausts herself trying to strictly choreograph perfect moments, only to end up bitter and fatigued when reality refuses to match her theatrical expectations. Then there is the autodidact, a man Roquentin observes at the local library. He is attempting to educate himself by reading every book on the shelves in strict alphabetical order. He claims to love all of humanity, yet he hides behind this rigid artificial curriculum, completely disconnected from any actual person. History, nostalgia, abstract humanism, Sartre labels these pursuits bad faith. They are elaborate lies we construct to avoid taking responsibility for our terrifying true freedom. The final collapse of these lies happens on a completely mundane afternoon. Roquentin sits on a bench in a public park, staring at the gnarled black root of a chestnut tree. Suddenly, the word root and its biological function as a water pump evaporate. The veneer of language melts. He is left staring at a soft, knotty, monstrous mass of matter, exposed in a frightful, obscene nakedness. This triggers contingency. Absolutely nothing, not the tree, not himself, has any necessary reason to be there. To exist is simply to be encountered. If the evolutionary clock restarted, results would look entirely different. There is no rational plan. In truth, reality is an accidental, meaningless excess. All our human attempts to rationalize it are revealed as completely absurd. If you examine Roquentin's diary entries, the severe panic attacks, the creeping paranoia, the dissociation from his own face in the mirror, it reads exactly like a clinical diagnosis. You could easily classify his experiences as symptoms of borderline personality disorder. Sartre frames this psychological collapse as a state of total philosophical lucidity, the moment when the comforting facades of the world finally melt away. From this state of clarity, Sartre derives the defining maxim of his entire philosophy: existence precedes essence. Unlike a tool built for a specific job, humans arrive in this universe without a manual. We exist first as blank, meaningless biological matter. Only later, through our actions and choices, Do we define our own purpose, identity, or essence? There is no pre-written destiny and no divine plan waiting for you to discover it. You are burdened with the absolute freedom to create your own meaning entirely from scratch. Seeking refuge from this crushing freedom, Roquentin retreats to a crowded, noisy cafe. He sinks into a chair as the waitress cranks up a phonograph. An old American jazz record begins to play. The nausea vanishes. The song doesn't exist in the messy, biological way a tree does. It is pure intentionality. The melody is held together by a rigorous, unbreakable internal logic, each note dying just to give birth to the next. While Roquentin cannot justify his own messy biological existence, the record's structure suggests a path forward. He decides to write a novel, to forge an object that exists purely on its own intentional terms. The universe will never provide you with a reason to be here. You can spend your life acting out a pre-written story in bad faith, or you can face the nausea and take up the pen to define your own essence.